to the Undercovers football podcast. I'm Ben, joined by Connor and Paul, and we have a lot of exciting things to discuss tonight, including the Bills potentially clinching the AFC East as early as this upcoming Sunday night. Um, that would be an amazing Thanksgiving weekend, and I just hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving. Paul and Connor, especially you guys, my awesome co-hosts. Thankful to
Awesome.
be able to do the show with both of you, and then for all of our viewers who listen to our crazy takes every weekend and keep coming back for more. Let's get started with our quick takes of the night. So, lots of good teams lost this weekend, and who is the fraud of the week? I gotta go with Houston, I think, because I mean they still are in the driver's seat of that division because they beat the Colts twice. So barring a complete and utter meltdown, which is still possible because they still have to play Baltimore, Miami, and Kansas City, but the Colts pretty much have to win out. But Houston's really has not been looking good recently, especially CJ Stroud.
CJ
Dan
Fraud, you mean?
Orlovsky, Dan Orlovsky, and Jimmy Garoppolo are finally getting some vindication for their uh, embarrassing safeties because not only did C.J. Stroud do the same thing that Dan Orlovsky and Jimmy Garoppolo did, he did
Man.
it to lose the game. The game was on the
No.
line, 3rd and
Man.
17. He had no idea where that boundary was to the back of the end zone, and imagine losing like that. But
Mm.
also, Kaimi Fairburn, what the
Oh my
hell is going
God.
on with that guy? So at the end of
Yeah.
the Buffalo game, it's a tie game with a potential to go in overtime, and he nails a 59-yarder with ease. And then, of course, against the Jets, he missed 2 field goals, one of them being
Yep.
inside 30 yards. Against the Lions,
Hmm.
he missed 2 field goals late. And then against the Titans, he missed another one inside 30 yards to tie the game. Now, he supposedly set an NFL or tied an NFL record for most 50 plus kicks in a season. I might need that fact checked, but still, after beating Buffalo, which was the Bills' last loss of the season up until
It was.
now, at least,
Yep.
What does that mean?
he's completely turned into Tyler Bass. Like, I don't know if Tyler Bass stole his powers or something, like, in Space Jam, when the Monstars, siphon all the powers of the NBA athletes. So maybe Tyler Bass has some secret alien powers that he's been using. But yeah, I
Great
mean, the
reference.
Texans, they look like frauds right now. Like, they're lucky they play in possibly the second easiest division in football. And I don't often do this, but I'm gonna give another fraud of the week to a team that was actually on their bye week, the Falcons. Yes, I'm calling them out
My
as well
God.
because they
Okay.
can't beat teams outside of the NFC South, it seems like. I know they did beat Philly. That was early in the season. Philly has since basically they just are rolling right now and just they turned up another gear, it seems like. But the Falcons, you're frauds too, because if you guys didn't play in the South, you probably wouldn't be anywhere close to getting a playoff spot, which is especially gross because there are 3 teams in the NFC North with better records than the Falcons, and 2 of them are going to have to go on the road for the playoffs, which I think one of them being potentially Minnesota right now, which for the whole NFL isn't scripted, people. Kirk Cousins' first playoff game for the Falcons really being against the Vikings, really? Like, it just makes you
Yes.
think. Just like last year's, the Lions' first playoff game in how many years, home at that, was against the Rams. But anyways, let's move on to your quick take, Connor.
Well, first off, I do have to also give a fraud of the week, and I have to agree with the Houston Texans case because I had been trying to tell people since the offseason that this team was going to suck. Nobody believed me. They thought I was losing my mind because they thought CJ Stroud was this next up and coming great quarterback. I'm sitting there and I was telling people for weeks, actually, no, months, bruh, they have tape on CJ Stroud now. They know how to accurately defend CJ Stroud now. Why do you think he's still going to be able to run around freely and throw to whoever he wants to freely? And now all of a sudden you kind of see the results. The Texans as a whole do not look good. They just lost a divisional trap game to the Titans, but that's bad enough. So at the end of the day, they are absolute frauds. And I had been saying it for months, and now I'm happy to feel vindicated in my statements. This team sucks. The only reason that they are still in contention in the AFC South is because Jacksonville imploded. If they hadn't imploded, we would not be talking about the Texans. We'd be talking about the Jaguars. Anyway, the next quick take is a good one.
Yeah.
How is Brian Dable and Joe Schoen's job in New York? Well, obviously, this is an easy answer. They should have been fired yesterday. Like, how are they still there? Like, how? You just got absolutely dominated by the Buccaneers with Tommy DeVito as your starting quarterback. And he's hurt. So now what are you going to do? You going to tell Daniel Jones that you're sorry and you want him to come back, or I don't really know exactly what you're going to do here. So it's amazing that they haven't already been fired. But if they aren't fired now, then they'll be fired at the offseason. They will be fired in the offseason. And realistically, the whole entire thing, the whole team should just clean house. Fire literally everyone. Trade Malik Neighbors to the Buffalo Bills, where he will actually get targets from a real team. Anyway, that's the quick take from me.
Let me just disagree with you real quick because,
I'll
look,
just
I
agree
get it. It's
with
not
me about
pretty
Malik Neighbors.
for no, about
He
Joe
is a Bill.
Shane and
He's a Bill.
Brian Dable. Look, I get it. It hasn't been pretty, but they still have yet to choose their quarterback for that team. They basically came in to that franchise handcuffed. Let's turn, a piece of shit into a piece of gold. You can't, the whole saying, you can't polish a turd. Well, that's what they basically have been forced to do. And if you know anything about that situation, the only reason they extended Daniel Jones was because their owner, John Mara, basically forced them to. And,
Yeah, he won a
you
playoff
heard,
game.
well, yes, against a fraudulent team. But
We know.
the whole, the athletics reportings on Woody Johnson. Well, look what happens when an owner has too much control of a team, i.e. Jerry Jones. I think John Mara just needs to sit back and let the football people run the show. And they got to stop caring about hurting people's feelings, because the same situation, part of the reason they're in the Daniel Jones situation in the first place was they were afraid to draft a quarterback back in 2018 because they didn't want to hurt Eli's feelings. And they ended
Mhm.
up benching him for Geno Smith.
I remember that. Good times.
And that's why they got Saquon instead of potentially Sam Darnold or Josh Allen. Well, thankfully they didn't take Josh Allen, but just from an outsider's perspective, they were stuck with Daniel Jones because they didn't want to hurt Eli's feelings. Then this past year, they probably should have taken J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, or even Bo Nix, but they don't want to hurt Daniel Jones' feelings. So you got to stop worrying about people's feelings, Giants. Like, you got to worry about building a competitive football team. And I still saw this team with less talent make the playoffs and go on a run and compete with some good teams. The O-line has objectively been horrendous, but they also haven't really put a lot of investment in it outside of Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal. And they kind of just did some patchwork of free agency, which never ends up working out. They're missing their best player on offense, arguably, in Andrew Thomas. That's making the whole offensive line look worse. The defense played well at times this season, but the defense can only do so much when your offense is doing absolutely nothing. So I still think, I don't know if they will get another shot, but I think Dable's proven he could develop Josh Allen. So I think he should get a chance to have his own quarterback in New York that's not named Daniel Jones.
Guys, I got to
I,
stop y'all for a second. I got to tell you what I just saw on Twitter really quick while I was scrolling through. The Green Bay Packers official Twitter account just tweeted a limited number of tickets are available for Thursday's Miami versus Green Bay game. due to the Dolphins returning a portion of their allotment. That just means a whole
Wow.
bunch of Dolphins fans checked out and didn't want to go. That's
Well, they
That's too cold.
hilarious.
probably are getting flashbacks to that Chiefs playoffs game. You
Oh,
know,
Yeah,
jeez.
it's too
all the
cold.
people who went to that game. And that shouldn't be that cold this week. But
Cold enough.
Okay.
If it's
I think
under
I
let's
seen
get on
60,
somewhere.
to
if it's under 60, you have
let's
deterred Floridians. I promise.
Oh, jeez.
speaking of Dolphins, the Dolphins game. As I mentioned earlier, the Bills can clinch the AFC East title this week with a win and a Miami loss. So the perfect dessert for after your pie and everything you eat, Thanksgiving, the perfect cherry on top will be a Miami loss to the Packers. And then if the
Hmm.
Bills beat San Francisco, we put a bow on the division, obviously, but we want much more than that. I mean, there's still the
Yep.
one seed potentially, but I mean, the Bills potentially could get some major reinforcements this week, starting with Matt Milano. He hasn't played since week 5, I believe, of the 2023 season, where
Mhm.
Hmm.
he broke his leg in London against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I would say it's kind of been a little up and down the linebacker room without him, especially against the pass.
Hmm.
But I'll say recently, at least, Dorian Williams has really rounded into form, but
Hmm.
he's no Matt Milano, and I think this is a major piece to the defense because with the way Dorian Williams has been playing, I think you can use him more on the run plays to kind of give Milano some rest. And then on the passing downs is when you'd want to put Milano, on the field because he's one of the best coverage linebackers in
Hmm.
the league. And we got a small sample size last year of him next to Terrell Bernard, but that was also during Terrell Bernard's first 4 games as a full-time starter. And I think now after winning the defensive player of the week last week for his performance against Kansas City, I mean, he arguably should have won that award twice because that Houston game, he was a wrecking ball. And if the Bills won
Hmm.
that game, he may have won that award. But Bernard has been completely elite, and it may not even be crazy to say, even with a healthy Milano, Bernard may just have surpassed him because Milano hasn't played in so long, and Bernard has just really came into his own. But I think having a player of his caliber back is obviously going to be dividends
Hmm.
for the defense. He's an absolute missile, blitzing the quarterback, and that's just another weapon to add in Bobby Babbich's defense. And I think Bobby Babbich, being the coach that really helped develop Milano when he was a linebackers coach, I think he'll definitely be happy to have one of his best players. I mean, you can argue that Matt Milano is the best player on the Bills defense. I don't know currently coming off an injury, but still he's up there. And when he's fully healthy, he's one of the best linebackers in the league. And I think not just for the Bills, but any football fan should be getting a treat Sunday. You get to watch two of the best linebackers on the planet go head to head
Mhm.
between him and Fred Warner.
Hmm. I will personally avoid taking offense to you calling him the best player on the defense in favor of Taron Johnson because I'm just excited for Matt Milano to be back.
Well, I
Uh,
think I think the team already voted how they feel about the best player on defense with the captainship. I'll just
yeah, yeah,
leave it at
yeah.
that.
True.
They just wanted the experienced players as captains, and Bernard
No,
being
that
that.
the Bernard is the least experienced out of
Well,
every
yeah, actually,
starter
yeah, you're right. I don't know
besides
why I said that.
eh, probably all of them, honestly, because
Most of them, yeah,
even
because
even even Hamlin started a full season before Bernard did. So
yeah, you're right. I don't know what I
they're
was
they're
thinking
about
earlier.
equal in experience. Like
Mhm.
I would say Hamlin, Rapp, and Bernard are the most inexperienced on the Bills defense right now.
Yeah.
But Paul, what are your thoughts on Milano coming back?
I
Our
mean,
goat returns.
w-
My goat.
yeah,
Okay, fine. Yeah,
everyone's goat.
your goat returns.
I mean, Matt Milano, I mean, I think it's going to be a slow ramp up for Matt Milano. I mean, you could probably see something like 20, 50, 75, 100, the next 4 games. And, as he starts slowly come back, interchange him pass to run. But really what this does for the Bills defense, it really just gets the run support back. And because the Bills currently right now sit 13th in the NFL in rush yards per game, and they sit 6th in and they currently sit 15th in yards allowed per game. Back when Matt Milano was starting in 2000, starting his last full season in a Bills uniform in 2022, the Bills allowed the 5th fewest rushing yards per game, and they allowed the 6th fewest yards allowed per game with Matt Milano starting every game for them. And that was arguably his best season currently as a Buffalo Bills player. I mean, he was rated as the 11th best linebacker according to Pro Football Focus. So just altogether, Matt Milano would just meld this already good defense without Matt Milano just together, and it would just make this Bills defense even better than what it is currently right now. And I don't feel like there's many flaws in the Bills defense other than, certain pass coverages or the run defense is the obvious hole, but other than the run defense, I really don't have many issues with the defense. I mean, the Bills have 13 interceptions, 11 forced fumbles. You go back to Matt Milano's last full season in Buffalo. I mean, they had 11 forced fumbles in 2022. They already have matched that total this season. So just imagine Matt Milano back 100% in about 4 games. They already have 11 forced fumbles. And then add in Matt Milano, who just causes turnovers every single, probably in almost every single play. I mean, he had 3 interceptions back in 2022. He was a forced fumble machine. You add that back into the Bills' defense. I mean, the Bills are probably finishing maybe with 20 forced fumbles on the season, and that turnover margin might hit a historic mark this toward the end of the season, adding Matt Milano back to the Bills defense, but also his leadership is back. His voice on the field is back for the Bills, which is super important, moving forward, as it's going to be an important 6-game stretch for the Bills to, one, win the division, and 2, fight for that 1 seed, which we all know the Bills would want.
And we got a shot at it now. We did.
Very good shot at it.
I didn't know if we'd have a shot at it after Kansas City, but now with us winning that game, it's right back into focus. So for the remainder of the season at this point, we're all going to find ourselves being big Chargers fans, big Broncos fans if week 18 is when it comes down to it, or big Steelers fans. We're all going to become Yinzers by week 17. So we have a shot at it, and if we could get it, I want it, but it's important that we have to win the crucial games coming up. The 49ers game isn't even the one to circle much anymore because, they're so inconsistent and hobbled that it's like, all right, stop McCaffrey, you stop the team. And even then, they've been easing him back into the field. So, yeah, I mean, you stop them, then you go on the road. Then you go on the road to the Rams, and that's not a slouch of a team. Their run defense is frightening. Their defensive front in general
Their
is
run
frightening.
defense is frightening.
Or no, not run defense.
Did you watch the game where Saquon Barkley
I
put
did,
up
but that's Saquon
300
Barkley.
all-purpose yards? Like,
Yes, but
James
that's
Cook.
Saquon Barkley. I mean, he is a freak.
I mean, James Cook has been having a pretty good season too, and
James Cook will have his way, but it's a matter of that very young Rams front. Ben,
I
you
mean, their
ought to
front is
know.
good, but we can get there when we get there. San Francisco has a pretty good front too, and they're the team we play on Sunday.
Yeah,
And last week we got our
absolutely.
first taste of peak, which is snow football, which is looking at the forecast, the horse prepares for battle.
Yeah.
But the horses are gonna have to prepare for battle on Sunday night if there is snow. And what team does that favor in this type of matchup? Like, I think in a regular game, obviously you give the edge to Buffalo. Even without Purdy, I still would give the edge in a hobbled McCaffrey. But in a game like this, this is almost playing into the 49ers' favor. A team
Yeah.
with a good defense. I know they haven't been as good this year, but they still have a run game. I know
Mhm.
McCaffrey's kind of been hobbled up, but Mason's been excellent at times. So I would just say, I mean, Sean McDermott's record out of a bye and on extra rest is impeccable. So I
Mhm.
think the Bills still should be safe, but I mean, this just kind of plays a little bit more into um San I almost said San Diego, San Francisco's favor. Um, just they can kind of almost take Josh Allen's arm out of the game to a degree, but we know Allen could still make the big plays in inclement weather. I just don't think
Mhm.
he'll be able to pass it all over the yard like he normally does.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the snow is that heavy, it's gonna turn into a run first kinda game. So, you just
I mean,
feed
but we
James
still
Cook all day.
we still did see some passing last week in
Mhm.
Cleveland, though, and
That
Josh
we
Allen
did.
obviously is a better arm. Is more
Mhm.
apt for these elements.
Oh, absolutely.
But it will definitely, like you said, have to be a game for James Cook,
Mhm. Let him
As it
cook.
possibly
looks
Ray
like
Davis too. Go ahead, Paul.
as it looks like right now, I mean, it seems like it's changing. The weather is changing by the minute. If you just, if you depending what sources you're getting your weather information from. But it looks like right now the worst of the snow is going to be Saturday. So it looks
Okay,
like most of the snow might be out before the game, but there will be a potential chance of snow during the game. I guess it comes down to where the wind is going to push this snow.
Mhm.
If the wind is pushing it more south, it will be more of a ski country type of snowstorm. If the wind starts to push it up north just a little bit, you might start seeing that snow and wind during the game. And
right,
that could obviously turn into what do the Bills do on fourth down and two at the 30
Mhm.
yard line? Down by one. Do you kick the field goal or do you kick the field goal heading into the wind or do you go for it on fourth down? And, you know, you take the lead or you lose the game by going for it on fourth down. So that could possibly be the situation. The Bills are going to be talking throughout the week. Watching the weather reports and seeing where the wind is going to be and when the snow might come, and then start game planning just a little bit on special teams. It's like, okay, let's maybe add some wind inside the indoor practice facility. Playing in the wind hasn't favored the Bills much as of late. Tyler Bass's inconsistencies, and you go back to the win game against the Patriots where they gave up that long touchdown run, and that was practically the end of the game. So it would be interesting in how the Bills handle it defensively because look, Christian McCaffrey, like you said, Ben, he's been injured, but it's still
Mhm.
Christian McCaffrey. And then there's Mason, who's been up. He's been up and down since like his really great game. Still, it's still one of the best run offenses in football. You're going to have to game plan well to stop them because who knows if Brock Purdy is going to play. If Brock Purdy isn't going to play, that means Brandon Allen, Josh Allen's clone, is going to be in at quarterback for against the Bills defense. So they're probably just not going to decide to pass the ball much. And then they're just going to run the football and it's going to be cold. So it's going to turn into a probably a run heavy San Francisco offense. But I think on the Bill side offensively, it's going to be who do you going to trust more in the certain situations, Tyler Bass or Josh Allen's and the Bills offense if it turns into a close one score game toward the end of the game.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you're sitting on 4th and, if you're sitting on 4th and short in those kinds of conditions, and you either gotta try to kick a field goal to tie the game or you gotta go for it. I mean, if it's 4th and short, you have Josh Allen, the tank, you go for it every time because usually in those situations, you're gonna get it because he literally just throws himself over the line of or the, line to gain, and it usually works. So
Mhm.
that's the whole idea. But yeah, you definitely have to be very cautious, with strategy in a game like that. Of course, your main focus is going to be running the football because throwing the ball in those kinds of conditions is never any fun.
Mm-mm.
But, you know, you have to do what you have to do because this game could very well be for the AFC East. And it would be the earliest, I believe, the Bills have clinched the AFC East since the 90s when they clinched it in week 12. I could be wrong, though. I don't remember exactly what
You could
year
be
it
wrong, but
was.
you also could be right. I don't know the exact.
But this would be the earliest they've clinched the AFC East since the 90s. And that would be just a small sigh of relief because at least then you're in seeds 1 through 4.
Well, let's get into our keys of the game for this Sunday's matchup. I'm gonna stick to the key that I had versus Kansas City, and I think it ended up proving to be one that helped them win the game ultimately, which is win in the trenches. The Bills got to Mahomes, I believe, 3 or 4 times. They did disrupt, cause a lot of disruption, leading to an early turnover, which led to the Bills' first scoring drive of the game. And Josh Allen did not get sacked once, and that 4th and 2 play, it seemed like he had all the time in the world. So I'm gonna do the same key this week, which is win in the trenches. Depending on the game, if it's a snowy type game where they have to run the ball, they got to win up front. And then if on the flip side, if San Francisco is trying to run the ball, they got to win at the point of attack and stop San Francisco from being
Mhm.
able to run it at will.
Hmm.
And I don't think the San Fran O line is that good, but still, Trent Williams is a dog, and I'm never going to take him lightly because he's likely a future Hall of Famer.
Oh,
So for
absolutely.
me, it is win in the trenches.
That's a good key. And realistically, that's a key to every game every week is win in the trenches. Because if you win in the trenches, both the run game stalls and the quarterback is always pressured. So it leads to very inaccurate timing and inaccurate decisions. So that's one realistic key to every week, but definitely a point of emphasis this week, considering just how good Christian McCaffrey is and the question mark for the San Francisco 49ers at quarterback. It would be very fitting to have an Allen versus Allen matchup in this game. But if we're going to talk about another key to the game, it would definitely be, let's just say, hypothetically, it doesn't snow. Like, you've got to find a way to get to Brock Purdy to where he's not getting those deep shots off to Debo Samuel
Mhm.
and just basically keeping him in check because you've seen what Debo Samuel can do out of the backfield. It is disgusting. Like, he is absolutely incredible on those designed running plays where he literally lines up like a running back. So keeping an eye on Debo Samuel will be critical throughout the whole matchup, along with stopping the run by dominating the trenches. And then on our side, of course, on our own offensive side, you've got to let James cook. If it's going to be one of those types of games, create as many holes as you can, give him all the running space in the world. What I would love to see, I don't know if you guys saw the clip from the Buccaneers Giants game on Sunday, but wouldn't it be great if Josh Allen threw a short pass to James Cook? He's got a lane and he's running deep. And out of the bottom of the screen, you see Josh Allen at full speed running in there to throw a block on a guy who's about to tackle James Cook. Man, that would be amazing to see Josh do something like what Baker did. So, again, keys to the game, obviously. Pound the run, stop the run, watch Debo Samuel, make sure he doesn't get away. And on top of that, win. Like, there's no other way to really say it, but just win.
Win.
Get through these guys, win the AFC East, maybe, and look forward to two tougher
Uh-huh.
matchups coming your way the next 2 weeks.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, obviously, you want to stop Debo Samuel. I mean, he is a for
Freak.
sure yards after catch guy. So
Mhm.
that means you finding him in in the 5 yard curls. Make sure you tackle him immediately. Wide receiver screens. Make sure you're getting behind the line of scrimmage and pushing him back for extra yards. So I do agree with your keys. With both of your guys' keys. In fact, is kind of where I'm kind of going, but in a different way. Joe Brady's offensive play calling is my keys to the game. And, the 49ers have in most defensive categories on run defense and pass defense, list anywhere from about top 15 to top 10 to top 15. They have the fifth lowest pass yards per play and the eighth lowest rush yards per play. So if this game turns into a snow/wet weather type of game, well, if you can't run and it turns out that you can't pass because, the weather conditions, one, for the pass game, and two, the rush defense is just really penetrating the Bills' offensive line and they can't run the football.
That would not be a good
Where
situation.
Joe Brady needs to turn to his game plan and start adjusting just a little bit. And in these games like this, you go back to the Ravens game first, the third week of the season. It's raining at M&T Bank Stadium, and the Bills could only put up 10 points. Offense wasn't working, the pass offense wasn't working, and the Bills just couldn't move down the football field. And that's really has been the only weather related game for the Bills. I mean, you can go to Seattle. Seattle was a wet weather game, but it wasn't raining consistently enough for where it actually affected the Bills' offense. I mean, this game can turn into a game where it can affect the Bills' offense from the start of the game to the end of the game. So Joe Brady's offensive play calling and game plan is going to be super important for the Bills against the 49ers. It's a defense that's banged up, but if they get some of their key players back, Greenlaw, Bosa, and some others that couldn't play against Green Bay, it could be a long day for the Bills' offense if it turns out to be a weather-related game and Joe Brady's game plan isn't strong enough.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and for God's sakes, one more thing that's very imperative. Do not give up a splash play that changes the entire outcome of the game. Do not let somebody on San Francisco return a punt for a 50-plus yard touchdown. Don't give them a easy touchdown for like 70 yards, or don't do anything like that, because that completely kills the drive in a game and it just flips the momentum. A lot of the times it'll flip the momentum in such a way that you physically can't recover from it. So do not give up explosive plays to a team that can absolutely hit you with explosive plays, thanks to Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and a guy I feel like a lot of people are forgetting about. His name is George Kittle.
Yeah.
So limit explosive plays on both sides of the ball. Especially don't drop the ball, lose, a fumble, and then it just gets returned for like 40, 50 yards into the end zone.
Yeah.
For a defensive
Don't want that.
touchdown. No one wants that. That will absolutely just stun the entire crowd in Highmark Stadium. But I think that's what we had planned to discuss there. What did you have something else in the outline,
Yes.
Paul?
Let's go to impact players, like player
Yes.
that
Okay.
you think it's going to make an important, kind of like a pre-player of the game before the game has actually happened.
Ben, you want to take this one first? There's plenty of them. Oh, is he? Oh, he's yelling at something else in the background. Is he yelling at his cat? I'm kidding. I don't even know if he has a cat. I know actually, no, you don't have a
Ben,
cat.
we can't hear you. Where's
Yep.
the mic?
Ben's mic is broken.
No, can you hear me?
Yeah,
we can hear you now.
We got you now.
Okay, I almost said hear you. Okay, yes. All right. You guys got me speaking gibberish.
The 49ers are sabotaging us.
Is a player I think has to have a big game. Both stopping the run and setting the edge and getting to whichever quarterback is there for San Fran. So I'm going to go with Rousseau.
Yep. Groot's a big one. Paul, you go next.
I'll go.
Please give us an offensive player.
I won't go a specific player. I'll take an entire line. I'm going to say the Bills' offensive line has to be is the impact player. You know, you look at what the Bills' offensive line did against a really good run defense of the Chiefs just 2 weeks ago. They have to do exactly that this week. Just exactly what they did against the Chiefs, they have to do it again this week against the 49ers. You know, the San Francisco run stop win rate is 10th in the NFL right now. So that's top 10 in run stopping. You're going to have to win at the line of scrimmage in this game. And, you know, with the weather, if it comes, you have to push people out of the way so James Cook and Ray Davis can move the football down the field for you. Because Ray Davis has been elite to the Bills offense this year. You get Ray Davis going, it could turn into play action for the Bills offense. And in a weather game that is potential in the making, play action might benefit the Bills more in this game if they can run the football just a little bit, because it gives them that little dose of explosiveness in
Oh,
a weather
absolutely.
game that some teams might not have, because Josh Allen is a weather football player.
Wasn't it that game that he had that absolutely insane day, like the perfect playoff game against the Patriots? Wasn't that in like really, really cold weather? It wasn't
That
snowing,
was
but
just
wasn't
Yes.
it
like,
really,
yeah.
No,
really
it was
cold?
snow and very cold weather. Yes, it
Okay,
was both of the above.
see, this kind of weather benefits Josh Allen. So at the end of the day, I think let it get. You know what? I'm gonna say it. I wish it were colder. Should be on his shirt.
I'll get it
Like
on a shirt. I'll print them
I
Undercover's
wish it.
first merch drop. I wish it were colder.
Oh my god. Yeah,
There we go.
with a picture of
Coming
Josh
soon from
Allen's
Ben.
face. There we go. That'd be excellent merch. I wish it were colder. But anyway, for an impact player, I'm actually going to give two as is actually, you know what? There's a case for three. There is a case for three this week, so I'm giving three. Offense, defense, and special teams. So offense for me is absolutely still going to be James Cook, especially if the weather takes a turn for the worse. This man's got to be on his A game, running the football, because that's if it's snowing that bad, then that's all he's ever going to be able to do is run the football, take short passing routes, screens, things like that. On defense, it's actually going to be Matt Milano, and it's not even going to be for Matt Milano playing effectively because you know he's going to probably be on some limited snap count coming back from the injury that he's had, and he hasn't even played an actual game in a few years. So I think just the fact that he'd be back on the field if he is going to be enough to change an entire offensive game plan because they just know how much Matt Milano can wreck an offense. So I actually think he'll be an impact player for that reason alone. Like, you know, how Amari Cooper was when he first got to Buffalo. He was playing, and defenses were reading him entirely differently, giving Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir less looks. So that's my defensive player. And special teams, there is a case to be made for Tyler Bass. Brother, you got to figure out a way to kick in adverse weather conditions because it will potentially come down to it. And if it does come down to it, then my brother in Christ, you've got to figure a way out to kick the football in cold weather. Not even really cold weather. That doesn't matter. Windy weather, snow in your face. You got to figure out how to make that play. So
Let's
that
get to our
that's
game
it.
picks of the week.
Oh, this is going to be
Yeah.
fun.
It was a rough week for everyone last week. It
Ooh.
was Ben, you went 2-5. I went 2-5. Connor, you went 3-4. So we all went under
Connor made up a
500 this
little
week.
ground
I
on
made up
me
a
at
little
least.
ground though. That's nice. I like that. So
If you're gonna say a fraud of the week, put it on me because I have been awful this year at game picks. I'm 38 and 35 on the season. At this point last year, I was actually, if I remember correctly, I think I was rolling through game picks last year. Just upsets after upsets helped me propel into the lead. But Thanksgiving has 3 games this week. We're going to start with the Bears going on the road to the mighty Lions. The Bears hand them their second loss of the season.
No, they do not. Lions, I know they don't normally win on Thanksgiving, but this is a different Lions team.
Mhm. The Lions are different. I mean, this definitely has the feel of classic divisional trap game, but this Lions team is different. I'm also taking the Lions. You know how great it is to finally see the Lions be good? They used to either be
Yeah.
bad or just very mid throughout their entire existence. If they ever made the playoffs, it was a fluke appearance. But now they're actually a juggernaut. Like, this is just so great to see for football itself. One of the biggest doormats of the past 20 years is now elite. We love that.
Absolutely.
That we
Give
used
me
to say it
Detroit
back in the
too.
2010s. We used to say it back in the 2010s era of football that you youngins don't know. But if the Lions and Browns ever played in the Super Bowl back then, we said the world was going to explode
I
or just
think it would
bust.
it would work the same way for the Bills and Lions.
No, not the Bills.
It
No,
would.
because the Bills were still, at least they
No,
were
they
just
were
meh.
not.
They were meh.
Nah, we were
They
not
did
good in
have
the
bad
2010s.
Oh no,
We had
that
the
you guys
longest
had
playoff drought in football. Come
oh,
on.
but you guys weren't bad. There were a few seasons,
Yeah, we
yeah.
were.
Oh yes,
I
I
mean,
know.
look at the
You were.
Browns. The Browns had just as many. I mean, we never went 0-16, granted, but we lost to the Browns 6-3 one game.
I
Enough
remember
said
that.
about that.
Oh, I
Yeah,
remember laughing
Yeah,
too.
that was painful.
yeah. Like we didn't go like we had like a 10-year drought of going 500, like going below
I know.
500. Like
I
that is
remember.
very bad. At least the Browns
Yeah.
made the playoffs once or twice in that span.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
No, they didn't.
They did so.
2007, and then I don't recall them making the playoffs again until 2020 or yeah, 2020.
I said once or twice, so that's
Yeah,
once.
once.
The Bills
Yeah, once.
made it 0 times in that span.
Oh, yeah, you are right. Yeah, I'll give you
So,
that one. I just
yeah.
remember them having like 5, 6, maybe 7 wins usually. It was usually never like 4
Same
or
for the
3.
Bills. The most we would get was 7. But let's
Yep.
go to the next game, which is I believe
The
Cowboys
snoozer.
and Lions. And I don't know why
Yeah,
you picked
Drew
this
Lock
to pick
versus
unless
Cooper
it's
Rush.
just you're doing all. Yeah,
Yeah,
unless
this
you're
is
just
the
doing
net.
all
This is
Thanksgiving games.
yeah.
I'll go with
This
I'll
is
go with the
food
upset
coma
pick
game.
here. It's got to happen at some point on Thanksgiving. So give me the Giants.
You realize that you could argue that there could be both sides to that upset pick. Like you could have easily said, "Oh, I'm upset with
True.
the Cowboys because they're both bad." With no Dak, this Cowboys team is just bad, but this is still the Giants we're talking about. I am also taking the Cowboys. This has just
No,
been a
I took the
hilariously
Giants.
Oh, you took the Giants? I
Yeah,
thought
I'm
you said
taking
you
the
took the Cowboys.
Giants.
Oh,
No,
well,
I'm
I'm taking
taking
the
the
Cowboys.
upset.
Okay,
I
the
think the
real
Giants pull it
upset.
off.
Okay, yeah, so that is the upset. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not taking the upset. I'm taking the Cowboys.
As it
They still
sits
have
right
CeeDee
now, it
Lamb,
seems
for
like
God's sakes. And that
as it
brother
sits
needs
right now,
to
it looks
give me
like Drew
points.
Lock is going to play on Thursday, which I think gives the Giants a little bit more of an edge over Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys. And I think, Malik Neighbors would be happy after this game because I feel like Drew Lock could find Malik Neighbors when he's open. Give me the upset pick as well. Let's go with Packers, Miami. Miami has to go on the road to a frigid
I
Lambeau
know.
on
Yep.
Thanksgiving night.
And
Yep.
I know this is probably going to feel like, the pick we want because, it helps the Bills in their clinching scenarios. But Tua said he's got to prove the narrative wrong, and I don't think he does. So give me the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, he is not proving any narratives wrong. Have you seen how that offense has been run lately? It has been run through Devon Achane, and that is it. Yeah, Jalen Waddle had a good game last week, and of course, I'd have him on my fantasy bench for it. But as per a tradition that I like to do with the Mafia this season, Jalen Waddle is going back in my starting lineup in the effort to have him put up a massive dud on Thanksgiving, leading to a Packers W. So I am taking the Packers. I know Paul's just sitting there like, how is this even possible considering the amount of crap you guys have given me in the chat for the past week about still being a double agent? But are you happy now? That's not a double.
I'm
No
happy
double
now.
agent would say
But that
that.
also makes this also makes my pick a little harder. Because
Oh, were
if
you
I
really
if I
thinking
go the sweep, it could jinx it on Thanksgiving night.
I say pick
And then
Miami
I'm the
just
one.
for the purpose of this.
So I think I have to go Miami here because
Take the
this-
fall,
God.
Paul.
All right, yeah, you can take it
I'll
because if
take one
I
for the
say
team
it,
for you guys.
if I say
I'll
it, they're
take one.
coming after me with pitchforks because they know. If you say it, then they'll just think you're crazy. But if I say it, because they genuinely do have a better offensive skill group than the Green Bay Packers, all except at quarterback, but they can't play in the cold. I mean, that's all the truth to it. Like, if
All
you
right.
really look at it, I mean, the Dolphins' offense is better except for tight
Yeah.
end, and the Packers, their
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
defense is better.
The Dolphins' offense is better than the Packers.
I
You may
mean,
want to slow your roll. I don't
Tyreek
know about
Hill,
that.
Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane. I
Nah,
mean, they are
it all
better,
starts
but
with the
they can't play in the.
quarterback,
Okay,
and
and you are right. And
they
Tua
got
play.
Jordan Love, and I think the collection of pieces, they may not have the top end talent, but when you include both Watson, Reed, Wicks, and Dobbs, they have a better 1, 2, 3, and 4. Miami's got a better 1 and 2, but
Mhm.
the Packers have two good tight ends. The Dolphins have one decent one in Jonnu Smith. So I got to disagree there. And I think also where it all starts, the Packers have the better play caller. I think
Oh, they do,
LaFleur
no doubt,
They
is
do.
a much better coach. So I think they still have
100%,
the advantage on that point. And they
absolutely.
can bully teams with their run game. And Miami might get bullied. But what's our next game pick, Paul?
Who's going to serve up a Black Friday discount, the Chiefs or the Raiders?
Uh,
Ah,
this isn't gonna be. This is gonna be like last year's Black Friday game. There might be another. Um,
I want to see it happen.
yeah, there might be another. What is it? Fail Mary or Hell Mary, whatever they called it last year. When Javon Holland picked off Tim Boyle and ran it back 99 yards. I could see
Oh
that
man,
happening again. This time in favor of the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs have a lot of revenge in mind for that Christmas Day loss last year. I think the Chiefs, and especially coming off of a loss and a narrow victory over the Panthers, I think the Chiefs win big.
man, I was so lit during that whole return. I was absolutely out of my mind screaming when Javon Holland ran that ball back against the Jets last season. But do you guys remember what happened the last time the Kansas City Chiefs played the Las Vegas Raiders when the Raiders started a backup quarterback and were absolutely terrible on a
Yeah,
holiday? The
Yeah,
Chiefs
yeah.
Christmas last
lost.
year.
The Chiefs lost. So, do we dare say history repeats itself when we really, really, really need it to?
I don't think it
I
does this
mean,
time. I don't
I
think the
don't.
Raiders defense is as good as last year.
It's definitely not. I mean, you got Max Crosby surrounded by
A
people.
bunch of dudes. Yep.
Yep. So I will also take the Chiefs. As much as I really want to throw it into the universe and say the Raiders pull off the miracle upset, because let's be honest, the Panthers almost beat this Chiefs team. Um, I'm still taking the Chiefs anyway. They'll pull out some magic, whatever.
Okay. I got some
So
breaking news, by the way. Indiana is still in the college football playoff picture.
what?
Yeah, they're number 10 still after getting drummed by Ohio State. So,
Cool.
yay, let's go Hoosiers.
I mean, good for Indiana. I mean, look, their strength of schedule. I just realized their strength of schedule could change. I mean, I don't know how my brain forgot about that strength of schedule can change. But entering the weekend, they were 100th and like sixth in the country, and after this weekend, they're like
Ohio
53rd in the
State's strength
country
of
in strength of
schedule wasn't
schedule.
much better, though.
I mean, it was better. It's better than Notre Dame, Ohio State, and I think Oregon. And there's also one other team. I think their strength of
Meanwhile,
schedule is than those teams, but
meanwhile, I'm just happy to hear that, my team won a game. So, Ben,
hey,
we
let's
won
not
a
forget.
Me
game.
too.
Let's
We won a
Hey, we
game. I
got a
didn't know
big
it was
game
possible.
on Saturday for the state of Florida
All right, I
title.
gotta pick my
Miami doesn't
game.
Oh,
I
you
count.
gotta
got that
pick
right.
Yeah,
Raiders
pick your
Chiefs.
game.
We could definitely dive into the college football playoffs as a final take as we head off the air, but give me the Raiders in this game just because.
Ah, someone's putting it into the
Just why
universe.
not?
Let's go.
I don't. I feel like all these games on Thanksgiving, it's gonna go as chalk. Lions. I mean, did pick the Giants. Giants. Upset of the Cowboys, but I could definitely still see the Cowboys beating the Giants. I think the Packers beat the Miami Dolphins. I think it might just go as chalk on Thanksgiving, and we need some drama heading into heading into the weekend. And why not the Las Vegas Raiders cause some drama on Black Friday and beat the Chiefs, keep them away from a playoff berth, while
Oh,
the
yes.
Bills could celebrate a division champion on Sunday. Why not? Cause a little chaos as we head into the weekend. Minnesota, Arizona, 1 o'clock.
Ooh, interesting game.
Interesting playoff scenario in the NFC. Who's going to edge out maybe this
The
game?
Vikings. West Coast teams typically have a disadvantage traveling to the East Coast, and I think the Cardinals. I know it was a divisional game, but they kind of got exposed versus Seattle, who I don't think are better than Minnesota. So, give me Minnesota.
Yeah, I am going to agree with this take, and I am also going to take the Minnesota Vikings in this game. I absolutely think the Cardinals, while good, are not great, and I think the Vikings are still very, very talented. So I am taking the Vikings in this game.
Yeah, I want to stick with you guys as well. I think Minnesota wins this game. I mean, Arizona's offense, at times has looked really good and at times has looked really bad. And they just been on this up and down slate this entire season, and they have to go from the West Coast all the way up to Minnesota. And, Minnesota now plays in the dome, so cold weather isn't going to impact this game at all. But still the Vikings probably pull out a win. Our final game pick of the day is the Ravens hosting the Eagles. Derrick Henry versus Saquon Barkley. The game that's before Bills 49ers to end your night on Sunday.
This could actually be the game that decides the offensive player of the year, not the MVP, because the MVP still is a quarterback's position. No hate to Barkley or Henry; they're having phenomenal seasons, but I still got to give it to a quarterback. But whoever wins this game and helps their team win this game could become sole possessor of that Offensive Player of the Year award. And I think it's going to be Barkley's team. I think this Eagles team have kicked it into another gear, like I said earlier. So give me Philly.
Oh, all right. I mean, yeah, you got a point, Ben. I definitely believe that this game could be the factor that decides Offensive Player of the Year. But at the same time, I feel like if either of these two running backs, Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley, have a record breaking season for a running back over 2,000 yards, I don't care at that point. Give whoever does it MVP. There's a reason they're talking about Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley in MVP talks because both of them have a chance to break the 2,000-yard rushing total. Saquon currently is on pace to do that. So I would, if they do it, then whoever does it, I want to see them win league MVP. But I think the winner of this game in particular will, in fact, be the Baltimore Ravens because they have one thing that I feel like Philadelphia doesn't quite have, and that is a true top of the line all around defense. Not to say they're bad. I actually think the Eagles defense is really good, but I think Baltimore's is just a little better. And I think that will probably wind up being the deciding factor in this game. So I am taking the Baltimore Ravens. I hate to because I hate the Ratbirds, but I am taking the Ravens.
This game comes down to which running back will have the most rushing yards at the end of the game. If Barkley has the most rushing yards, the Eagles win. If Henry has the most rushing yards, the Ravens win. And I think Saquon Barkley, after having 300 all-purpose yards on Sunday night in LA, could possibly do it again this week. Obviously, you're talking about a Ravens defense, but I think Saquon Barkley is going to have another big game against the Baltimore Ravens on the road. Give them a statement win, and Philadelphia continues their win streak as the Eagles will beat the Ravens. But really quick, let's jump into this 12-team bracket here. It looks like if Oregon, Miami, Boise State, and Texas all win this weekend, it looks like that's going to be your four as getting the first round bye. Indiana, it's a must win for Indiana this weekend against Purdue as they were ranked 10th. but they were seeded 11th on the bracket. The Big 12 is a massive, massive mess. I think it's
Chaos.
9 teams fighting for 2 spots on Saturday. I mean, Arizona State
Yeah,
currently
it's
holds the
gonna
12
be
spot.
very hectic. But next week this should be. I mean, we got a lot more to talk about because we'll actually be able to figure out who's in
Texas
those conference
A&M,
championship games.
yeah. I mean, you got
Yeah,
Texas
they're
A&M
kind of looking a little
hosting
cooked.
Texas. You know, the injuries with Quinn Ewers is a big what if right now, but
Yeah.
Well,
If
no,
we're
they
being,
shouldn't. They shouldn't be in the
if we're,
playoff.
yeah, see,
Yes,
if
they
we're
shouldn't be
talking
in the
about
playoff
precedent,
without
then
their
Texas should be
starting
eliminated
quarterback.
now because they don't have a quarterback at him. You don't have your quarterback's injured. I thought that's why. I thought if your quarterback's injured, you can't play in the playoffs. Am I, or is that just a Florida State thing? Did they just think we were that good that year
It's
and
probably
just
just a
hated
Florida
us?
State thing.
Yeah, they hate us. So all right, forget. Yeah, you'll see Texas still make it even though Quinn Ewers is
They
hurt.
will because of the SEC bias. But that
Yep.
should wrap up
Yep.
tonight's show again. I hope everyone has a great and happy Thanksgiving, and go Packers and go Bills this week.
Yes,
go
absolutely.
Packers, go Bills, eat a bunch of turkey, and we'll see you next week.
And a lot of
Yep.
pie. Let's go.
Go
Okay,
Bills.
yeah, pie, yeah,
First
okay.
of all, yep.
All right,
So go
they're both done.
Bills. Go Packers. Big dubs. Let's get this AFC East.
All right, let's get the AFC. Good night.